Welcome to The Feed, powered by Loblaw. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc. We conceived of The Feed podcast as an opportunity to showcase thought leaders, tastemakers, innovative food and health brands, and yes, a few key Loblaw executives who are making a difference in the grocery and health industries, together helping Canadians live life well. Canada might have been an e-commerce laggard. Then the COVID era of retail came along and reset the floor. On this episode, recorded live at the Loblaw Supplier Summit, I sit down with Rohit Sriram, Senior Vice President, E-commerce and Loyalty at Loblaw Digital. So many questions. Where does Canadian online shopping actually stand today in grocery and apparel and everywhere in between? Why pick up one first? And why delivery is now the fastest growing channel? What value really means when the delivery fee is still a sticking point? Whether 10-minute delivery is the future or a question that's already been answered. And how the leader of one of Canada's biggest digital teams tells the signal from the noise. That's all coming up on The Feed. Roy, welcome to The Feed podcast. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm thrilled. You and I have sat down together. You've been on the mic with me before. I just saw you on the stage at Retail Council Store Conference.
That's right.
You're getting around. You're telling great stories. You so much information, so much great information.
Yeah, it just feels like I think digital overall is picking up steam within within the industry, and so obviously my boss puts me up to it.
Well, tell the folks who you are and what you do for a living.
So my name is Rohit. I'm the Senior Vice President for e-commerce and loyalty within the Loblaw companies. It is a pretty big mandate from my perspective. Lots of responsibilities.
Yeah.
Of course, e-commerce and digital being one of the growth engines for the company. But I'm very excited.
So we're going to focus more on e-commerce today
That's
than we
right.
are loyalty. My e-commerce journey started back in 1998.
Wow.
I don't know if we talked about this before. I sold the very first pair of Levi's jeans online in the world
Fantastic.
in 98. And then I launched e-commerce for Hudson's Bay in 2000.
Oh, wow.
So, I go back in e-commerce
Right.
for a while. So I'm really excited to have someone, a practitioner like yourself. So let's talk about the overall environment. So for many, many years, and it may or may not still be the case, Canadians were seen as a bit of a laggard in terms of adoption.
Yeah.
Then COVID happened, and,
Right.
and it was called the Great Leap Forward. And I think some of that was exaggerated. But I genuinely felt that for Canadians, that was a genuine leap forward. And to some degree, you tell me, did the both behaviors and the shopping catch up to where, for example, the Americans are? Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, for sure. So I would agree with the statement that, Canada in general has been a laggard, right? And I think we're starting to catch up, but still probably not all the way there. So obviously, if you look at Asian markets, they are far, far ahead,
Sure.
In that scenario. But of course, within North America, I think we're getting close to where US is at,
Right.
Which is a good sign. And to your point, I think COVID really did put us back on the map. And I would say, one of the things that we realize is that habits are hard to break, right? And sometimes you just need a situation like COVID where you get introduced to something different, and you have to embrace that newness for some period of time. And then you can start to see and compare and contrast, and it takes up. So I would say, what we've observed is, of course, there was a step change in a couple of months on e-commerce.
A couple of weeks, practically. Remember those crazy days,
oh my
right?
God, yeah, the first couple of weeks. And, once things started to open back up, I would say, it did come back a little bit, where people were like, okay, I get it. I see this channel. I will use it when it's appropriate for me. And it sort of balanced itself out. But even after the balance, I would say it was significantly higher.
It reset the floor, right? It reset the base behavior, so to speak.
At least 2 to 3 times the penetration that it was in before. And I would say, right now, I think Canada is hovering maybe around 9 to 9.5%, which is good from overall e-com. And of course, grocery is a bit more underpenetrated today, but the rest of general merchandising is a lot higher, right? You find that.
Well, I love what you're saying about behavior changes.
Yeah.
I equated the COVID era to putting a broomstick in a bicycle wheel, because it's so hard to break,
of course,
any consumer habits, and that just broke a lot of habits.
That's
now, I
right.
wanted to parse something out with you around, you mentioned grocery versus, let's say, department store type goods, right? I mean, at the king of the category is probably books or music, and at the bottom, let's call it the bottom of the percentage is more grocery. So you look after both the grocery business, but you also have Joe Fresh, so apparel. So Is consumer behavior different? Are we closer to, let's just compare ourselves to the Americans, are we closer in one than the others? I mean, historically, I thought of grocery in the 1% to 4% range, but
right.
How's it going? What's the industry tracking to?
Yeah, so I would say I think grocery is around that, probably more on the higher end side. I think it's been accelerating pretty fast. I would say prior to COVID, it was closer to the 1, right? But what we observe, and I think you heard Frank in during the Supplier Summit as well, where there are certain regions and banners where our penetration is actually north of 10% as well, right? Even for grocery. And when you look at apparel versus grocery, there are certain key elements which are very different from a customer behavior perspective. So on the grocery side, for sure, convenience matters, but produce quality sometimes matters a lot more. And if you do not build confidence with the consumers on enabling a good produce pick, then the chances of you staying within that channel can go down. So
fresh is a particular challenge.
Particularly challenging area in e-commerce on the grocery side.
Yeah.
On apparel, though, it becomes more about knowing the brands and the fit and the feel. And once you sort of have that, then I think it's a lot easier for you to go back and just transact because you know exactly.
What does the industry call it? A little bracketing, right? Where I don't know what size it is. I'm going to buy both sizes. I'm going to returns. I mean, it feels at a broad level that returns are a bigger focus
100%.
in the hard goods and the apparel, and it's a bit less in the fresh. Now, a question for you. When we talk about online,
yes,
let's get a little more granular. There's ship to home.
Yes.
And then there's pick up in store. And it seems to me that Canadians more love order online and pick up in store, but that's changing too. What's your experience?
Yeah, it's a great point, and I'll talk more about grocery, and then maybe come back to the apparel side. And so we started out on a buy online, pick up in store model, and that picked up quite a bit of steam. And I think it was a slower transition from shopping in store because you had an out. Right, so you reached the store, you got the products. If you weren't happy, you always had the option of going into the store and picking it up, and that actually scaled quite significantly for us. And even right now, I would say a large percentage of our online grocery business is pick up in store, but delivery is the fastest growing channel for us. It's been picking up a lot of steam, and I think again, it's the same thing. It's like, how do you build trust in a service? So if you've done enough pickups, then you start to believe that delivery is going to work.
Yeah.
We also find that younger demographic, as they are coming on and starting to utilize the service, they expect delivery to work, right? So there's no two ways about it. It's almost like it's table stakes.
Yeah, there's no forgiveness. I think in the early days, you're right. There's a bit of forgiveness. That didn't work, but it's complicated or whatever, right?
Yeah, and so that's been growing really fast. And I think I've always said internally where there are moments in time where different solutions serve different needs. And I think there's a place for pickup, there's a place for delivery, there's a place for ship to home, all of that, because sometimes you're on the road and you're on the way and you might just want to stop by, pick it up.
It's actually more convenient because you don't have to worry about being home or unattended. I mean, not all Canadians are home. Many Canadians are not at home during the day or on the weekends. Now, a question for you. I wanted to pull back the lens a little bit because I often find that talking about e-commerce divorced from overall shopping is kind of like a distinction without a difference. And I know you and your team have very precise, that means your function, very precise metrics around e-commerce and your expertise. But it does feel like all of this happens within the context of shopping in general. Like consumers aren't thinking e-commerce, online, they're thinking shopping. So I guess that's where the visits to the store happen and that many consumers are not just purely online versus store. There's a real hybrid, right? Real hybrid behavior.
100% it is. And I think that's actually the mindset shift we had to create internal to our teams as well, where you cannot think of, and actually if you take your own examples, you'll find that there are situations where you walk into the store, there are situations where you do it different ways.
Discovery. I mean, you're
exactly.
Stores are a wonderful place for discovery, right?
100%. And so we actually created this concept around moments. And that's how we sort of think about how our channel plays a role in Canadians' lives.
Moments.
And so it's a moment in time. And so, different situations, 1 week versus another, different external circumstances require different solutions. And so the question we ask ourselves is, what are the key moments where online plays a bigger role in providing that convenience or that solution to the customer that's looking for one? And And that has to be in the context of overall life of a Canadian. And that does include retail shopping. It does include online shopping. And that's how we sort of design our experiences as well. And we also sort of think about there's a portion of time, and we're lucky because we've got both physical presence and digital presence, where we can say you might start your journey in one channel and end it in another. And how do we make sure that it's a very seamless transition without you having to worry about, I forgot this on this channel, how do I convert it?
I remember in the early days of Hudson's Bay, e-commerce is like, I want to be able to bring a product back to either Zellers or Hudson's Bay, and they're like, we've never even thought of that. Like, that seamless experience.
That's right.
I think that's the real sign of modern successful commerce, right?
100%.
Is that seamless experience back and forth. And let's talk about value. I mean, consumers are really focused on value. And I think in the early days, e-commerce, it's funny, the evolution, if we think of 20 years. I mean, it was like a premium service, kind of a luxe thing. I can get something delivered to the home. And then it became, I'm just going to shop online for discounts.
Right.
In the broad range of what you do, how do you express value in terms of e-commerce?
Yeah, it's a great point. So, I would say fees for delivery or the service itself is still a sticking point for many consumers. And while you might think about value in different ways, which is, there's value to time savings, there's value to just the price of product, there's value to having easy returns, right? There's so many dimensions of value overall. And so what we try to think about is, if, as I said before, which is if you sort of think about a moment in time and a solution that you are creating for that moment, we think about, is the cost of that solution worth the value that it's delivering? And if it doesn't, then we really need to figure out how do we reduce that, that component. So to your point, online previously was considered as a premium service. And so you would charge for that premiumness because the access to it was more limited. I think we don't have an excuse anymore to make that claim.
Right? I come back on the as seen on TV products back in my time tunnel where it's like 6 weeks, shipping and handling costs. And that was kind of the baseline.
Right.
That was the foundation. It's hard to even imagine that world today,
100%.
Right? It's hard to imagine. Now, I want to just follow up on one thing. I made a bet, at least articulated publicly, that 1 hour rapid delivery speed would be more niche, and it would be a premium service and would always be a premium service.
Right.
But how do you guys see that? Because you can get stuff really quick. And Canadians seem to have an appetite for that for a variety of interesting reasons. Some are actually doing some math and saying, well, it's better than owning a car and or whatever, or they just want something right away. How do you think about speed of delivery, I guess particularly when I think about fresh, as competitive advantage, or is it becoming table stakes? Where is it on that spectrum?
So it's a very good point. And I think, what is table stakes, I think changes over time. And again, it depends on where we are on the adoption cycle. So I would say now, same day is kind of like table stakes, right? Like you need product same day. It's not that everyone needs it all the time.
Well, it's funny, the word need, right? The scenarios where you actually need something same day. If I'm offered it, I'm going to take it.
Of course.
But, this is where my thinking was 10 years ago. There's very few instances. There's a few. You need something right away.
100%.
But that's really changed, right? To your point, table stakes don't stay the same.
Correct.
And differentiators become table stakes.
Right. Because I think what happens is, it's a couple of things, right? One, the cost of service goes down. So then it just seems natural.
More people use it, route density, all those metrics, right?
100%. I would say I think we are not yet there from a rapid delivery perspective in Canada. Although, I was in Asia and there was a race to provide 10-minute delivery as a standard.
10 minute.
And then they realized that actually anything lower than 30 was not really needed. Right to your point, which is, sure, you can offer it and customers will take it, but it wasn't something that everyone was looking for. And
certainly not something everyone would pay for.
100%, right? And so I think we believe speed is important because there are situations where someone does need something immediate. How often does that happen? I think depends on the level of planning that a household would do or an individual would do.
Or in the case of Shoppers Drug Mart, for example, you
just have that.
You're having an allergy attack, or you've got a wicked headache, and you're like, I can't even think of getting off the couch.
Yeah.
So there's scenarios or
correct.
Instances.
And so we think that, and that's what happened within Canada, where there were a lot of rapid delivery providers, but none of them stayed, successful, because I think to your point right now, it is a niche in Canada, sub 30 minutes. But I would say like same day is sort of table stakes everywhere. We would say the same thing, and we are observing the same data internally. But we are still investing in 30 minutes. So we have a partnership with DoorDash where we do rapid delivery for Loblaw customers. And we are starting to see it grow. It is growing. But to your point, it's very urban, like deep urban focused, high density, more condo living type of consumers, more late night, more OTC style, right? So we're starting to notice that, and I think eventually it might become the norm, but it is not there today.
Last question for you.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about technology. So you're an experienced technologist, and we haven't even talked about AI yet, so it's a rare interview where it doesn't come up. I don't want to dwell on AI, but I'm intrigued by how you and the team think about parsing the signal from the noise.
Yes.
You probably get and see and then inundated by great solutions, new technology.
Yeah.
Some are just, imaginary. I think of all kinds of things that just came and went. How do you parse that signal from the noise?
Yeah. So, I think one of the key things to remember always is that technology is a means to solve a problem. And problems have existed for a while and they don't necessarily change. So to the point that we were making, what problem is online grocery really solving? It is providing that convenience. It's providing for those moments where you cannot physically walk into a store for whatever reason that might be. And so we always evaluate technology solutions on what problem is that solution trying to solve, and how effective is this going to be, or this new solution going to be compared to what we have.
Right.
And we really need to see that differentiated value in that solution. And that's what we test for. So let's say that, our intuition says, yes, this makes a lot of sense. It should work. It should make it better. Then we design a test around
That's kind of first stage gate, right?
That's one stage gate.
This could make sense.
This could make sense, right? It is going to, truly transform.
Because you guys don't have all the answers. Nobody does.
Nobody does.
You know what? Maybe we'll be surprised. It's kind of, maybe it's got some legs to it, right?
Yeah. And so then we sort of talk about what's the investment required to validate that hypothesis, and how much scale do we really need to validate that solution. And we always do that. And so, at the end of the solution, it's like, did it solve that problem? And if yes, and we're seeing really positive signals, we scale.
Right.
And if not,
is it delivering value to the customers? That's
yes.
Number one, right?
Yes, 100%. Has to be.
Rohit, thanks so much for joining me on the feed. It's wonderful to talk to you again. And I love talking about e-commerce, as you could tell, because it's just a real passion. Yeah. And the opportunity to talk to someone, a practitioner like yourself, real treat. So thanks again for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, be sure and follow us and give us a 5-star review in your favorite podcast app, and tell your friends and colleagues all about us. New episodes of the feed powered by Loblaw will show up regularly on your favorite podcast app and on the Loblaws Company's limited YouTube page, where you can watch the full video of each episode. I'm Michael LeBlanc, consumer retail growth consultant, keynote speaker, media producer, and host of a series of retail trade podcasts. You can learn even more about me on LinkedIn. Safe travels, everyone.